The kick on the way by Santos, and it is good!
I feel like everybody views the Packers as this dominant franchise who has a clear edge in matchups between these two, but it hasn't exactly been the case 100% of the time because people don't realize these two have major aura, both of them. This rivalry is widely recognized as one of, if not the most iconic in the NFL, with consistently entertaining games and storylines, starting in 1921. Where the Chicago Staleys defeated the Green Bay Packers 20-0. This victory would contribute to the Staleys winning the championship that year and set the stage for everything. November 23rd, 1924. The Pigskin Classic got another important chapter written in its story with the first player ejections in the NFL. In a low-scoring game at Wrigley Field, the Bears' Frank Haney and the Packers' Tilly Voss both got into a disagreement that went from verbal taunts to hand-fisted acts. They both would be the ones ejected, if you didn't pick up on that. Between 1928 and 1930, the Packers would get the better end of this matchup 100% of the time without even allowing a single point for a 5 of 6 wins in the process. The Packers three-peated in the midst of all this, surpassing the Bears' championship total, but the Bears did clap back with 2 more wins and even things out. A tight-knit 7-0 victory contributed to the Bears' 3rd championship season. Both teams would win at least one championship leading into the first playoff matchup between the two. Following 10-1 seasons, both teams needed a tiebreaker to decide the winner for the Western Division and who would represent the division in the NFL championship. The Packers would open up the scoring in this game and lead after the first quarter, but the Bears would take control in the second quarter and not look back. To add on to that, Chicago would defeat the New York Giants to match the Packers' championship total. Again. A major figure in the Pigskin Classic was Sid Luckman, who was the quarterback for the Bears from 39 to 50 and would contribute to the 4 championships won in the 40s and saw them actually have the lead in most championships all time over their major rivals. George Halas and Sid Luckman is one of the many iconic head coach quarterback duos that saw lots of success, with the signature being the T formation and that orchestrated the Bears' success with the duo. The future Hall of Fame quarterback would have a 12-4 record over the team of Wisco to go along with the dominance. The Packers would get their own level of dominance later on, though, with the opening game at New York City Stadium, now known as Lambeau Field, being another edition of the Pigskin Classic. A couple of guests included Vice President Richard Nixon and NFL Commissioner Burt Bell for this important game. The Bears opened up the scoring with Ed Brown's TD, but the Packers would even it up with a big passing play in the second quarter. It was a nice little back and forth between the two, but the Bears' final score could only be 3 points to where the Packers would grab a TD to win the game. This was a highlight in an otherwise down year for the Pack crew, who still hadn't had a winning season in 10 years. The Packers would gain their mojo in the 60s with 5 championships and a 12-3 record against the Bears from 60 to 67. This included a couple of winning streaks and a 49-0 victory in their best franchise season. The Bears had been seen as the leaders in this matchup up until this point, in which the Packers started to pull away as the superior franchise. We still got one of the many classics in Chicago during 61, with the Bears formulating a 31-7 comeback and making it a 3-point game, until a safety sealed the victory for the Pack crew. The 70s saw this rivalry being even, with icon Walter Payton being drafted to Chicago in 75 and instantly becoming one of their best players in franchise history. In a key shutout against the Packers in 77, Sweetness ran for over 200 yards, tying Gale Sayers' single-game record against Green Bay in 68. Despite the Packers starting this era off with Bart Starr scoring a clutch TD at Lambeau to beat their rivals, this was mostly even between the two, with the Bears leading the 70s series 11-9. Neither team won much of anything in this era, but the Bears were set up for success they would see in the 80s. The Bears would end the 70s winning 5 of the final 6 games in the Pigskin Classic, leading into one of the biggest blowouts in the rivalry's history to start the decade with a 61-7 win at Soldier Field. This came after a close overtime win by the Pack Crew in their house that ended in a crazy fashion. A figure you might not know who goes by the name of Mike Ditka was hired as head coach in 1982, and he would lead the best era in Bears franchise history, including one of the greatest defenses of all time being formulated and winning their first Super Bowl and 9th championship. During Ditka's years, the Bears would go 15-5 in the Pigskin Classic to top everything off. Included in the Bears championship season, the refrigerator would contribute on the other side of the ball as a fullback on a Monday night and contribute to a powering 23-7 victory in the Pigskin Classic in Chicago. They would win both that season as well. To go along with the Bears' 8-game winning streak from 85 to 88, we got some juicy controversy with the instant replay game. The Packers were trailing at Lambeau with Don Majkowski leading a drive to the Bears' 14-yard line, and on 4th down, Sterling Sharp caught a TD to give Green Bay the lead over their major rivals, but the line judge decided it wasn't legal with the Magic Man crossing the line of scrimmage before throwing the touchdown pass, which gave the Bears the victory. There was only one thing though. It was a very close play and subjected to the fan-dangled instant replay system implemented in '86. It took a minute, but the replay official decided there wasn't sufficient evidence to nullify the TD. Fueled by rage, everyone in strong support or association of the Bears were claiming home favoritism, while it was really Mike Ditka, and this was now referred to as the asterisk game, as well as it incited the NFL to rethink its replay system. Some lovely jubbly controversy to end off the decade is any great rivalry's wet dream. Now we've reached the point in which everyone is familiar. Sort of. Brett Favre, someone you've never heard of, would join the Packers in '92 and start off with a victory in the Pigskin Classic in a very efficient passing game. This would precede a 10-game winning streak over their bitter rivals between '94 and '98, and the Packers' resurgence culminated in their 3rd Super Bowl victory. We also can't skip over a classic pass from Country in '95.
Man open at the 30. It's Robert Brooks. Goodbye.
The Halloween game from the year before was also a classic with a long TD run from Gunslinger.
It's inside the 20, inside the 10, and dives in on Cunningham.
He also beat the Bears with a sprained ankle the same year of the Robert Brooks touchdown pass. This would all contribute to Favre's 23-13 record in the Pigskin Classic and contribute to the resurgence of the iconic franchise. To round off the 90s, we got a little tragedy. Having retired from the NFL 12 years earlier and being inducted into the Hall half that time prior, Walter Payton obtained a rare liver disease and passed on. 6 days later, we got a Pigskin Classic at Lambeau Field, in which the Bears would dedicate their performance to their franchise icon. The Bears would lead after the first quarter, but the Packers fought back and held the lead at halftime, with Buckhead Brett connecting with Tyrone Davis for a 7-yard touchdown. Jim Miller responded in kind, connecting with Bobby Ingram in the 3rd quarter to reclaim the lead going into the 4th. The 4th quarter saw the Bears leading by 1 point and the Packers having the ball in field goal range for Ryan Longwell. A victory seemed imminent for the home team in this one, but the Bears wouldn't go away like that in the Walter Payton game, with Brian Robinson blocking the kick and ending the 10-game losing skid over their most hated rivals. They all knew what this game meant and had to come through to close off the 90s. Unfortunately for the Bears, reality set in after the Y2K scare, with the Packers winning 7 straight Pigskin Classics from 2000 to 2003. A high-scoring affair in the Bears' temporary home in 2002 was included in this.
Going very deep for Driver, who gets out in front, and he's going to go all the way.
The middle of the decade saw another important figure being added to the rivalry, with cornerback Charles Tillman being brought on board to Chicago and immediately making his presence known in the Pigskin Classic with a 95-yard pick six and a game-sealing sack forced fumble, giving the Bears their first victory over Green Bay at Soldier Field in 12 years. This also allowed the Bears to take hold of the NFC North with a 9-3 record and win it, though they wouldn't do anything in the playoffs. The next season would see the Bears continue their momentum and win both the NFC North and the NFC. That started with a key victory at Lambeau Field. It was the first time Brett Favre was shut out in his career, and the beginning of the sentence that describes the Bears' vaunted defense of the season. In 2008, Buckhead Brett would leave North Wisconsin and give the keys over to a figure you've definitely never heard of in Aaron Rodgers. His first Pigskin Classic would be a dominant 37-3 victory at home. The second game of the season was a clutch victory for the Bears, with Robbie Gould evening the season series and keeping their postseason hopes alive, though they wouldn't make the playoffs. Both teams would be second fiddle to their other rival that season, but still be in good position for the future. In the 2010 season, the Bears would win the NFC North, while the Packers would find their way in as a second wild card to where the scripted for their first official playoff matchup for the rights to appear in Super Bowl 45. The Packers would continue their run by going out to a 14-0 halftime lead, raining all over the parade in Soldier Field. To make matters worse, Jay Cutler went out with injury in the third quarter, and useless Todd Collins made it seem as though the Bears would have a rough ending to their season. Caleb Haney, a third-string quarterback, was brought out to try and weather the storm, and it wasn't looking good either. He did bring things back in with a huge touchdown to Earl Bennett. And the Bears would get another stop and give Caleb Haney the opportunity to tie the game. Except he didn't.
Over the middle, picked off by Shields.
The Packers would go on to win their fourth Super Bowl and 13th championship overall in this season. We got more juiciness in 2013, where it looked like a different team would win the NFC North due to Aaron Rodgers going down with injury. The Packers were able to weather the storm throughout the season, and the Bears couldn't quite take advantage. And so, a winner-takes-all Week 17 matchup was set up in A-Rod's return. It was back and forth throughout, leading to a pivotal and dicey fourth quarter. Facing an 8-point deficit, the Packers would have a key drive punctuated by Eddie Lacy.
He's going to get to the edge for the touchdown.
The Bears were unable to answer the Packers' huge touchdown, but could still get a stop to ensure the NFC North title, except for one thing.
He's got Cobb at the 10 to the 5 to the end zone. Touchdown and a dagger. Oh my goodness.
One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, the greatest according to Packer fans, will always find a way to get it done. Sam Shields came through again, and the Packers win the NFC North. Again. There was some respite in this rough era for the Bears to where Brett Favre's jersey retirement ceremony was held on Thanksgiving, and it was spoiled by the Windy City Boys.
Fires in the end zone, batted and incomplete.
I lived in Wisconsin at the time, and even those who weren't into football that much were talking about this game. Things like this are why this rivalry will always be timeless. 3 years later, the Bears would have expectations after acquiring Khalil Mack. We don't talk about that. And their dominance out the gates at Lambeau seemed to reinforce their newfound prowess. Aaron Rodgers going down with injury seemed to add insult to injury. He came back into the game for the second half and did his thing again.
Touchdown! Shoots it to Devontae Adams. And Adams dives for the end zone. Surveying, fires. That's caught. Randall Cobb into Chicago territory. Randall Cobb inside the 20-yard line. Randall Cobb is going to score.
What more is there to say after a huge comeback like that? The second Pigskin Classic of the season would allow the Windy City Boys to clinch the NFC North, their first since 2010. Included in this game was Eddie Jackson ending Rodgers' streak of over 400 straight passes without an INT, and be their first victory in the Pigskin Classic at Soldier Field since 2010. The Bears would do nothing with this promise and momentum, however, and neither team would win anything of note moving forward. We got another Rodgers Classic in 2021, with Rodgers reinforcing his dominance even more. The Bears still have not found their mojo as a franchise, and the Packers transitioned into another era seamlessly. Again, with Jordan Love also having a good start as a Packer and in the Pigskin Classic. With Caleb Williams' arrival, however, maybe the Bears will actually find their mojo this go around. Only time will tell. But we're bound to get more iconic moments in this legendary matchup.